All right, M&M Nation, welcome to week 5 of the M&M show. George, we had a lot happen this week, did we not?
A lot happened. A lot of really good football was played. Some not so good football was played.
Well, the Jets and the Giants have to play games too. No, it was a great week of football. I saw a stat: the NFL is on pace for this to be the biggest offensive year in the history of football. Who's surprised? Nobody. That's the way the rules have been going anyway. So we look at this. This is going to be a fun year. I'm excited to go over all that we found out this week. George, you with me here?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's go. All right, welcome back. Man, a lot happened this week. We kind of touched on it there. We had some big games from a lot of fantasy players out there. George Kittle came back from injury and showed everyone he is healthy. We saw that this week, right?
It's a beast.
Beast. He went full beast mode this past week. We saw the Jets confirm for us that they suck. The Jets do suck. Because they lost to a third-string quarterback that is the nephew of a Super Bowl winner. So that's what he's most famous for. The Giants still suck, although as I'm looking at it, maybe not as bad as the Jets. And the Buffalo Bills are still good. That was what I learned this week. George, what'd you learn this week?
I learned that you could be in first place with a 1-2-1 record.
You did learn that you could be. Is this the worst the NFC East has ever been? It's got to be, right?
It's been really bad.
Like,
I can't remember it being this bad, or a division for that matter being as bad as this one has been.
ever, like any division ever. I don't know that I've ever seen two teams be this bad at football when we look at the two teams in New York. And then that division, like, the Cowboys are easily the most talented team in that division, but Mike McCarthy can't figure out how to actually get that team to win. And then somehow or another, you have Philadelphia beating the Niners, who whatever. By the way, if the Niners don't start CJ Bittard or whatever his name is, if Garoppolo's not healthy this week, they gotta something's got to be done there. He came in, I get it, like just a couple drives there in the fourth quarter, but he was immediately better than Mullins. But like that Philadelphia Eagles team that's leading division is bad. That Washington team is bad. Like that is just so much bad.
There's a lot of bad, but there's going to be that's a big prediction for this, and it's not as much of a prediction as a foregone conclusion at this point. But I think there's going to be a 6-10 team in the East that goes to the playoffs.
All right, so let's do the math real quick. So have they beaten anyone out of the division? No, right? Or no. The Eagles have.
Yes.
So that's the one team in that division that has a win from outside. No. So of the
Cowboys
so
that
the
beat
Cowboys.
the Falcons. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just trying to do the quick math because like there will be 4 wins at minimum in the division, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if every team goes 4-4, or shit, it'd be. Oh man, this is so much bad.
6-10 is going to be the number to hit.
Yeah, right. Because if you go 500 in division, it's not 4. There's 4 teams, but it wouldn't be 4. It'd be 3-3. So it's entirely. You might even be like over guessing there. There might be a 4 or 5 win team when you look at that division that wins that division. It's that bad.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's real bad.
Real bad. So just to sum it up, bad. All right. So we look at that. We look at the quarterbacks are still. I mean, Josh Allen, still an MVP caliber quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah. He still got it done. It wasn't as impressive as a performance as we've seen, but he showed a little bit more grit than he usually has to. It was a closer game.
We saw Russell Wilson come back down to earth a little bit. I still think he's my MVP candidate today. Not that the Writers Association or the players give a crap what I think, but like I think he's still my MVP today. But he came back down to earth a little bit. That Hawks team wasn't just out there throwing up 40 points like it was nothing. So we've got that going for us. What was your biggest surprise of the week, right? What did you learn the most from?
Biggest surprise of the week. I think maybe the excitement for me was some of the breakout performances that I saw, specifically just the way that Aaron Rodgers can get it done every single week. And
with a tight end that nobody's ever heard of that's available in all formats in all leagues.
Yeah, with a tight end that has been doing well this year, but he's had maybe 4 or 5 targets each week. So, but Aaron Rodgers can get it done on the ground, in the air, and they could do it defensively as well. So that's kind of like what I found most impressive.
Okay, I like that. All right, so George, who had a breakout week this week?
People I was excited about from a running back perspective is Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon had a big game.
Yeah, he really showed that he could get it done. He got it done from the air, so with catches and just like a touchdown reception. Got it done from a rushing perspective. That's somebody that had a lot of draft capital. A lot of people were really high on this year because he was finally going to have a quarterback.
Sure, yeah.
To work with. So I thought that was really exciting. And I think anybody that had Joe Mixon was really happy. And anybody that was playing against Joe Mixon was trying to claw out of the hole that they were in.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. A guy who had me excited, we saw Damian Harris come back, 100 yards, first game back, boom, right on out there. Now, granted, he got 48 of those in one giant chunk there. But you still got it like the first game back, it's your first game playing, and you went out and got 100 yards and had a big rush, a big runoff. So I like to see that from him, and a guy that, again, that's available in a lot of formats out there.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely my one of my people that I say just pick him up because
it's time.
A lot of people forgot about him, and it's almost always a Patriots running back that's going to be finishing in the top. My biggest surprise of last week.
Yeah.
My biggest surprise of last week is I didn't remember LeGarrette Blount's name until I looked it up.
Until you looked it up. Yeah. All right. Now this won't be necessarily somebody you're scared about, but who last week did you expect to have a big game that just like they laid an egg on you?
So I was expecting big things out of Brandin Cooks.
Yeah. In an optimal matchup against a semi-weak Vikings team. Yeah, that defense has not shown well this year.
I'm worried about him as well as Deshaun Watson. Clearly, the upper management's worried about the team as well since they just fired.
Yeah.
O'Brien.
The coach, O'Brien comes out. I'm not worried about my job. Well, buddy, you should have been because you got canned. You know who I'm shocked still has a job after this week? Adam Gase. Another guy I'm still shocked has a job, like Matt Patricia. Dude, when you're getting just crushed, okay, the team, you took over a team that had gone 9-7, I think 2 straight years, had been in the playoffs under the previous regime. They hired you to be the next step. And then you come out and say, well, we had a lot of work to do when we came in here. You know, it wasn't really going the right direction. Dude, they were 9-7. And you are hot garbage. You cannot blame the previous regime. You have to take some ownership. Get out of here, guy. You are garbage. Sorry. I hate that. Well, let's just blame the previous regime. Nope, not cutting it. If I'm your owner, you're out of there. GM, you're out of there. This guy is gone. But I'm with you. There's coaches that have to be worried about their jobs this week. Let me tell you who, and I'm not worried about them long term. But we've got some disturbing trends, right? We've both been high on Jonathan Taylor. We've talked about it a lot. The Colts are averaging 3.5 yards a carry. And he's been good. He's been fine. But I expected like a decent week against a tough Bears defense. But I thought he'd be okay. And I'll tell you what the biggest surprise or shock moment of that game for me is Colts got inside the 5. All right. First and goal inside the 5, and they threw the ball 3 straight times. Now you are a team. They are a team that says we run the damn ball. That's their motto. They have hats, right? The quarterback last year had a hat on that said run the damn ball. Looks like Phillip Rivers does not have that hat on because old boy still wants his stats. Somebody needs to tell him, hey man, this isn't about Phillip Rivers' stats. This is about winning football games. And if the Colts want to win football games and be a better red zone team, which by the way I think they're last in the NFL in the red zone right now in efficiency. They want to be a better team. You tell you what, that team's not winning a Super Bowl if that red zone efficiency is still bottom of the league. They may not make the playoffs. They better figure that out. You better use your weapons, and you better run the ball inside the 5.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me thus far has been T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y.'s been struggling, yeah.
Yeah, he's really been struggling. A.J. Green's been struggling. A lot of these kind of veteran receivers seem to be falling off the map there. When I was watching the Indianapolis game, I was just kind of blown away by just how he's been the first 4 weeks of the season. Do you think that that's something that's he's going to be able to recover from?
Yeah, I mean, I think he will. I think some of it's a little bit of just getting a new rhythm with a new quarterback. And I think you miss that when you don't have the OTAs and a real training camp and some game time under your belt with preseason. And I think it takes a little bit, especially because they've got to find a rhythm because he's not, excuse me, T.Y. is typically not a run a slant and catch the ball kind of guy. He's running a little bit more elaborate routes that are more specific on time and things like that. So when the timing's just not there because they just haven't played together in a while, then you're going to see this. What I'm a little surprised by, and maybe it's because he's not a young man anymore, so maybe they're trying to avoid getting him hit. But in years past, when they wanted to get T.Y. started, they were throwing wide receiver screens to him and getting him the ball because he's a man who's got some moves and he can do some things from the outside. And so I think it would be interesting to see what would happen if they could make a little bit more of that happen. I think that's a spot where they could be successful, getting him the ball, getting him out in space, letting some folks block for him and watching him go. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with that team. I mean, again, Rivers wasn't brought in. He was brought in to not make mistakes, right? To be able to go vertical a little bit. And he's still got a little bit of an arm. He can still go vertical a little bit. But the reality is that that's not what the Colts want to be, right? They need to be able to stretch the field, but they're not trying to do it on every play. So I'm a little worried about that Colts offense either not being able to run the ball or not being patient enough to stick with it to elongate those yards per carry. Because it's not like we're out here seeing them try to run the ball 20, 25, 30 times a game. You know what I mean? And so I'd like to see a little more of that out of the Colts offense. Stick with the run game, especially, again, inside the 10 and the 5. When you have, first and goal to go inside the 5-yard line, you got to be able to punch that ball in on the ground. Have to.
And that being said, though, they are 3-1, and they beat a team that was previously undefeated. Game script didn't necessarily dictate a large or a heavy Jonathan Taylor game. I'm not concerned about Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to be really good this year.
I hope so. I mean, here's the reality: is outside of that game against the Jaguars, they have the Texans defense is a little bit soft. The Titans defense is shown to be a little bit soft. So I think there's definitely opportunity for them to play some teams in the division and against maybe a little bit of a softer belly and be able to run the ball. Taylor was doing just fine until they put in the B squad against the Jets. But that also shouldn't be surprising. There's no reason to put miles on those guys when you just don't have to do it. So it'll be interesting what happens moving forward there with that team, see if they can keep going. Speaking of Jonathan Taylor, right, we each had 3 guys we were really excited about last week, and we're going to get into that portion of the show. Last week you took Big Ben. He ended up not playing. Didn't hurt you too much, though, because you took Justin Jefferson, who had a nice game, got you 14 points, and James Robinson, who had a nice game and got you another 14 points. You ended up with 29 overall, which I guess would have lost to me, but that's only because Josh Allen put up 25 and my other 2 guys were under 10. So I did not have a great showing this week with Taylor, Gallup, who put up another egg on me, Josh Allen being my only scorer. So who are your 3 guys this week that you're really excited about? If you got them on your team, you've got to start them. Give me your quarterback first.
So, guys that I'm really excited about from a quarterback perspective is I know this is a really obvious pick, but Dak Prescott is the. So this is my crushing on section. Dak, I am completely crushing on. I think that like as much as I like to see Dallas perform well, it's also kind of exciting every time I see them get down really far because I know that they're going to give it like their best shot down the stretch. And I do own a lot. Selfishly, I do own a lot of Dak, both in dynasty leagues as well as redraft leagues. And he's got 12 TDs with 3 of those with his legs so far. So I'm excited about Dak. I think he's going to do well every week, especially since we were just talking about how weak
that defense is bad.
Their defense is bad. The division that they're in is bad. It's
Giants. Dak against Giants is not a bad spot to be. Normally I would give you my quarterback here, but because you're talking about that matchup, I'm going to give you my running back. Ezekiel Elliott had a rough game Sunday. He had a fumble. He didn't look great. He wasn't really in the game in crunch time. They were going with Pollard for some pass blocking. I feel like, man, this Giants team is so bad. They're going to get up early, and you're going to see a steady dose of Ezekiel Elliott just pounding the ball. I also hope, and we were texting about this on Sunday, you have one of the best bell cow running backs in the league. Your defense is bad. Control the clock, run the ball, and just let Ezekiel Elliott do what he does.
Yeah, I mean, from a perspective of Ezekiel Elliott, and you know, I'm in a lot of leagues, and I got the number 2 pick in one of those leagues, which I usually like the turn because you get better value. A lot of folks fall, and you go with the draft. I went with Zeke this year, and he can be dominating, but he's also super consistent. So my point behind that is, if you had to guess, if you haven't looked it up prior, running back, like what running back in a PPR do you think he is? Like top 10, top 25?
What level? He's probably close to top 5, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah, because he's the number 4 in football, and he's doing so quietly that he hasn't had a oh my god, like look at Zeke Elliott kind of game.
It's just every game. It's when I've got him in our league, it's 20 points, 20 points, 20 points, 20 points. He does it for you. And the great thing is he's also going to hang up like a 35, 40 pointer here or there. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. And the Giants defense played well, stopped the run a little bit on the Rams this week, but I don't see that happening in Dallas. So I am going to go with Zeke having a big game there. Who's going to be your running back?
Running back, I'm really excited about Antonio Gibson.
Gibby. Who did the football team? I almost said it. Who did the football team have this week?
Washington football team has. I gotta look that bad boy up, but
look at you stick it in the bad NFC East for your excited about.
Listen, like I'm excited about Gibson because there was a lot of word about how he was looking good for this year, that he was a game changer. There's a lot of other quote unquote game changers that really haven't gotten it done yet from that perspective. So for me, I'm excited about seeing what Gibson looks like.
Now they play a pretty stingy defense. They play the Rams this week.
I'm still excited to see what he could do against a decent defense. I think they're going to check the ball down to him a lot. I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: if you're looking at a PPR league, I absolutely believe that you could be very spot on there because it's a man. It could be a tough game for them. They're going to get behind early, and we'll see some interesting things happen there. All right, I'll give you my quarterback now, and I'm not really sure who to go with, and this could be a tough one for me. I think what I want to say, what I want to say is I think I want to go with Indianapolis against Cleveland, and Rivers being able to have a good game. But that Cleveland rush, that Cleveland pass rush could really be tough, and Rivers isn't exactly a mobile guy. So I think where I'm going to go with this, I don't know. Okay, I am going to do it. I'm going to take my boy, Ben Roethlisberger. You took him last week. I'm going to take him this week. They essentially had a bye week. That's what the NFL is treating it as. Philadelphia is still pretty injured, although I know that defense isn't terrible. I'm going to take Big Ben this week, getting some extra time to prep against the Eagles, and him having a big game against that Eagles team. I mean, Mullins and their tight end, granted it was Kittle, put up a monster game. So let's see what Big Ben can do with his just laundry list of weapons out there.
Yeah, and that's a good point because pick them up for my people that I think you should pick up. I have like a receiver, running back, quarterback, tight end. Tight end for me is Eric Ebron.
Yeah, Ebron. Yeah.
And Big Ben. I did pick him last week. I picked the Steelers to be able to get it done over the Titans. And what I think it's great that they had their forced bye week. Now, if you pick up some of these players, you're going to have the good fortune of being able to have the bye week.
No bye, it's all gone. It's all gone. Yep. I'm with you there. Who's going to be your wide receiver this week?
So wide receiver, I think a good pickup for wide receiver is Justin Jefferson if he's not already taken.
Oh, you're sticking with him, huh?
Yeah.
No. In our fantasy.
In our competition.
Our little competition, yeah.
I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go Christian Kirk.
Wow, he's been quiet all year. You know what's funny is Kyler was almost. There were like 4 quarterbacks I was looking at, and Kyler's had a rough couple weeks. Not necessarily fantasy wise, he's been okay, but like he hasn't played to himself. They're playing down. They're like we'll get to the pick 'em in a second. Like they're definitely winning against the Jets. Mm-hmm. And I expect Kyler to maybe even have a monster game, but that's an interesting pick to go. You're going to go with Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
All right. I got one for you here. I think Sammy Watkins is due a big game against Las Vegas.
Ooh,
so many weapons out. There's so many weapons. Yeah, there's so many weapons out there, and I think that that Las Vegas defense is good enough to shut down a few of them, right? They're going to focus on Hill. They're going to focus on Kelsey. And I think you could see Sammy Watkins having a day similar to what he did in week 1 against Houston.
Yeah, and you said it last week with Bill Belichick being able to control the game and how he made Patrick Mahomes look.
So, okay, I said they might, right? I said if they had a shooters or punchers chance, it was controlling the game via the run. By the way, that was before Cam Newton was out with COVID. So let's if Cam's there, they control the running game a little bit more. Also, like that was a big play early in that game when Hoyer took a bad sack at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
They also were a little unfortunate with that. Like he's under control. Listen, Patrick Mahomes is never under control until he's on the ground. That was a fumble. So I'm just let's back this off a bit. That game was way closer than what it looked like, especially for Hoyer and Stidham running out there from New England. Now let's pull it all the way back to this. You talk about what we're worried about, right? Let's move into the section of who worries me. And I know we kind of touched on some of this, but you want to talk about something I'm worried about? It's the New England Patriots. Okay, that defense is still formidable, but Stidham and Hoyer are not going to go out there and win you a lot of football games. Coach Hoodie or not, that's not going to win you a lot of football games. And so that if and again, Cam's got to sit for another 2 weeks minimum, right? 2 weeks minimum. So if he's on the bench for 2 more weeks, I see them best case scenario, right? Best case scenario, he comes back and what? They're 2-6. That's not where you want to be. They're not winning any of these games without Cam.
Yeah, I
So
thought
maybe at 2 and
Stidham
5,
showed.
whatever. But you get the idea.
I thought Stidham showed some like promise, but yeah, he definitely got a little rattled towards the end.
Oh, he threw
But
2 bad picks in that game.
oh yeah, yep. But
So
Kansas City is a deceptively good defense.
Kansas City's great, but I don't have their. I mean, let's look at their schedule. Let's see who New England's got this week, and we can kind of. But I mean, that's a team I'm worried about because they're playing Denver at home. Maybe they still win that game with Hoyer. But listen, Colts fan, I saw Hoyer play last year against some. Hoyer came into a game that the Colts were leading in Pittsburgh against Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Those were the 2 guys that played in that game. And Hoyer found a way to throw interceptions and lose that game. He's just not a good quarterback. He throws a tight spiral usually to the other team. So I don't have a lot of confidence there.
Mm-hmm.
Who really has you worried?
Worried. We touched on it a little bit, but I think DeAndre Swift is still who's got me the most worried. And again, a lot of this is selfishness because there's certain players that I decided to buy into with my teams this year. DeAndre Swift was definitely one of them because he shows all the talent. We saw it in college. And Adrian Peterson is worrying the heck out of me because he is running the ball efficiently. They are going to him every single time. Whenever I put DeAndre Swift on the bench, he ends up catching a ball for a touchdown, and it makes me look a little silly. So it's one of those things where I need him to come along pretty quickly. And from a tight end perspective, I also threw in there 3 different guys, Evan Ingram, Hayden Hurst, and Tyler Higbee. And for a lot of the same reasons, because they just can't, the consistency is just not there. The targets aren't there. And a lot of people picked them.
Higbee picked up 3 touchdowns a couple weeks ago, but yeah, it's like you said, the consistency is just not there. And from a fantasy perspective, I'll take 8 or 10 points from my tight end every week, as opposed to 25 one week and then like 2 the next, like no targets the next. Right? I need consistency in points. Not guessing on if this is going to be the week in the matchup that you happen to go off. Mm-hmm. Now I'm with you there.
Sure.
All right. So George, tell me a guy who's still available in at least some formats that you think is a guy that's worth going and picking up.
So last week I talked a little bit about Damian Harris. I still think that he's a good fit because I thought he looked impressive yesterday. He ran for 100 yards. Didn't really catch a lot of balls because that's kind of what James White's thing is, but he could be a real good smash mouth running back for the Patriots. A couple did kind of digging a little bit deeper. Jimmy G, pick him up because a lot of people have probably
dropped
it's bye
week time. Yeah, it's bye week time. If you need a quarterback, that's a guy worth going and getting.
And even deeper, I mentioned this before. I'm high on Christian Kirk, so pick him up. But also, I see Philip Lindsay is available in a lot of leagues where people pretty much just gave up on him. But Melvin Gordon gets hurt, or he outperforms Melvin Gordon, he's going to have a lot of share. So that's a guy that was going in the 6th or 7th round in fantasy leagues that folks just pretty much gave up on.
I am one of them. I just couldn't. We have a short bench in our league, and I just couldn't have him sitting there, being injured. I'll give you a tight end that's available in a lot of leagues. Mo Alley-Cox seems to be the starter and the ball catcher in Indianapolis. They look towards the end zone for him quite a bit. So he's somebody to go look at and take a shot on. Another guy that's interesting that seems to be a big deep ball threat. So I'll echo your words on Damian Harris. I think he's a big get in a lot of leagues. But another guy that I think is heavily available in a lot of leagues as we're going into this stage with bye weeks is Jared Goff. He's not going to be sexy. He's not going to put up a ton of points for you. He's not going to get you 30 in a winner. But he'll make do with the position for you in a time of need. So I think that's somebody that's worth taking a look at. Another really sneaky one way on down the depth chart. You've seen some injuries with Eckler in San Diego. Justin Jackson has actually gotten healthy. So there's a lot of formats where he's pretty available, and I think he's worth taking a look at as well, especially depending on matchups. So like the ability for him to maybe do some things as the season plays out. So that's all the fantasy goodness we have for you today. I think, we told you who to go get. There's still some players available in some leagues, and there's always an injury lurking behind every game. So make sure we're staying on top of the waiver wire. George, anything fun to part to any fun nuggets to give the fans as we part for the Pick'em segment?
No, I'm just looking forward to another week of fantasy football. It's good to have it back. I'm somewhat optimistic that we're going to be able to just have bye weeks as opposed to having games rescheduled. Because of a lot of the incentives that are happening, there's a chance that Cam won't even get paid for this year because of the fact that if they find that he was working out of what he should have been doing or going out where he shouldn't have been. So I'm interested to see if any of that kind of rears its ugly head again. And my advice to that is just to have as strong of a bench as possible and to have a good plan with your league commissioner on what to do if that situation arises.
Yeah, so I am the league commissioner. I did not have a plan, and you know what? That's okay. So, all right, appreciate everyone. Thanks for stopping by for the Fantasy Show. We'll see you next in Pick'em.